Friend, this module 3 is all about analyzing supply market. Now, welcome to this module. Welcome to the subject. It's a very interesting subject. The major part of this webinar, what we're going to do for this module will be focusing on external environment of procurements. So procurement function, the external environment is about analyzing the supply market. Now we will walk through various tools to analyze the supply market in a very cost-effective way. In short, we will try to cover as to how supply markets work and their main features, including risk. Then we'll also talk about the opportunity, and this understanding will help us to take better supply decisions around. Friends, I don't think I need to introduce myself. We have been doing in the past, so I'll just skip this one. Now, as you know, the total supply chain covers around 20 modules. We have already covered number 1, understanding the corporate environments. We have covered the specifying requirements and planning supply. And the third one is analyzing supply market. And after this afternoon, we'll be covering developing supply strategy. The module focus, as I said in the beginning, is on 3 areas around understanding the overall supply market. What type of supply market we have? Is it local? Is it regional? Is it international? Second, what we will do is focus on assessing the risks and opportunities to select the best supply market, because you might have a supplier in the neighboring countries. There might be some risk in that, and potential also there may be opportunity around. So you need to weigh them. You have to trade out. What should I do? Should I buy locally? Should I buy internationally? Because at the end of the day, you are competing with the international suppliers. So you want your product to be quality product. You want your product to be cost effective. So all elements has to be there around. And the lastly, what we will talk about is use information support for market analysis. Because to do market analysis, you need the information. This information could come from chambers of commerce, could come from the country's embassies around, could come from directly from the suppliers, could come from the network of procurement people, so could come from wide ranges around. Now let's first talk about what is market. So the market definition, before I say supply market, now the market definition is that there are 2 or more parties around. That's understanding around. And keep in mind, the market can be virtual also. Now each party has something of value to the others. Each one is contributing to each other's. Either you are paying money to buy something, or you are saying, guys, okay, I'm looking for this item with these specifications. Supplier is saying, okay, I can meet your requirements around. So that type of transaction goes on. Each party can communicate and deliver. So there has to be communication mode. There has to be delivery part. So that's party, and each party is free to accept or reject in the offer. So this is the broad definition, very generic definition, when we say the market. Now here comes, before I really go into more further details, the selection of supply base. It's a wonderful way, I think, explaining around the stages. Now the stages starts from the very first one is innocence. You are really innocent one way. That means you have got tons of suppliers, and in the sense that there's a clear scope of improvement. You got too many suppliers, you are struggling with it. It's an innocent stage around. Second stage comes awareness. Organization has large number of suppliers, but most spending is done with few. So basically, you are trying to encourage partnership. Understanding, the next one. The organization has reduced the number of suppliers and appreciates the benefit of good working relationship with suppliers. So slowly you can see when we go from innocence to excellence, we are moving towards supplier relationship management. We're trying to rationalize the number of suppliers. So those companies who have got too many suppliers, they are not even using SRM, they are not using good relationship, they are living in the innocence world. Too much paperwork. too much labor intensive approach around. The results may not be very good. While in the case of excellence, I'm rationalizing the suppliers. So that's where it goes on. And that rationalization is not a one-time exercise. It's continually reviewed program. The market is changing. So naturally you need to review your existing list of supply sources, the supply base. Next comes, now we understood the definition of market. We understood the supply base starting from innocence to excellence. The next comes, why analyze? Analyze means you want to have better knowledge of supply strategy, manage risk to the contracting authorities, more informed contracting authorities. So as a contractor, you are much more informed about the suppliers, allows for the identification of opportunities in advance. And the next is government of priorities around. There could be some priorities from the government side that we have to buy more and more from this country or that country. So there could be priorities around. Here I just want to touch again, it may not be, because most of the subject, both one I would say, the analyzing supply market and even the next one, developing supply strategy, depends a lot on this we call as 2x2 matrix. So in this 2x2 matrix, on the one side we show expenditure, other side we show supply risk. So we try to split the whole expenditure into 4 boxes. So that's what it's called 2x2 matrix. This was developed by Peter Kralzik, and he was the person who made it the procurement should be considered as a strategic function. So you will find non-critical item, leverage items, strategic items, bottleneck item. I'll be touching much more in detail later. So I just want to give you flavor. The Peter Kralzik was, I would say, the key person behind bringing strategic approach to procurement. Now the supply market influences what? It influences your decisions. Like even your personal life. You might be doing window shopping to 10 shops. By doing to 10 shops, you make up your mind where I'm going to buy this and where I'm going to buy this. So basically you make your decisions, what to buy, how much to buy, where to buy, when and how to buy. So those decisions are really affected by your supply markets. So the funda is same, what you do in your personal life, same thing you do for the office also. Where to buy, how to buy, when to buy, that's the way to do it. Now the supply market analysis involves the gathering of facts, data, observations, trends. As you do in your personal life, you try to go and do the window shopping, look at the price for the same items, do the Google search around, same approach here also. So the concept is to analyze the data, collect the data, observations, find the trends around. Like you and me, if we had to buy the air ticket, we feel, oh, if I buy on Monday, the price is lower. If I buy on the weekends, if I'm traveling on the weekend, the prices are different. So you need to find those trends also. Same thing happened with the products also. About the marketplace in which suppliers conduct business. So the market where they work on a particular box. Personally, like you're buying for your home products, utensils, clothes, you know, when the Christmas comes or Diwali comes, prices may go down. So those are the things you need to find the trends around. Now next is conducting a structured assessment of the past and future developments to determine the potential impact on potential sources, future sourcing decisions. Identifying action that a buyer can employ to influence the market. This is also very important around if you're a bigger buyer, you need to influence the market. Guys, I'm the biggest buyer. I want the best deal. So that way you have to really sell your company's activities around and tell the people around to make them motivated to come and sell you. So that's the way we call as sometimes procurement marketing. So as a procurement person, you have to market your services to influence the others around to come and deal with you. Now here comes supply market analysis. You can see the whole world is open. So at the bottom, as you can see, supply market is equal to review the structures, The characteristics. The characteristics of the supplier and the buyer. Both are very important around. As a buyer, my characteristics, and supplier, their characteristics around. Some suppliers are very difficult to deal. Some buyers also may be difficult to deal. How to do, who fits where, I think that's what we need to do around. And trends of a market for a particular product or service. So what are the market trends around for a particular product or service, how to do it. Now the purpose of the whole, this exercise which we could analyze in the supply market, could be assess the ability of different markets to meet your requirements. So you have X requirements. You want to buy 20 generators. You want to buy 400 kilometers of copper cables. So you may be having different type of requirements. So which are the market which can influence you? You are in the business of buying oil, plastics. Which are the one which can take care of you? Identify the markets which represent the best opportunity, lowest risk for a purchase. Suppose the country is under the big turmoil, political turmoil. Naturally, you won't like to buy from there. You won't like to contract to a company which is having, the labor is having regular strikes around. You would like to buy from a place which is peaceful, where it's easy to do the business also. Identify new products and technologies. Understand conditions and constraints related to a particular purchases. So reduce cost and risks. Identify opportunities. That's the bottom line we have. Now next comes setting priorities for analyzing supply market. Now the priorities could be 1, 2, 3. You want to set up the priority. The factors which you need to consider is it the first time you're buying? Is it a new items? When did you last review the market situation? You might have done a year back. The market might have changed. So you want to go through that. How quickly are the market technology changes? See, the market is changing very fast. Or do I react it? How much is being spent? How much time is being spent on the item around? Annual expenditure. Because one thing one has to keep in mind, doing analysis of the supply market is a costly affair. It takes time. But if your annual expenditure is so small, you're not going to do a big fanfare of market analysis. So that's where you need to really learn how much is your annual expenditure based on that. So what is the potential impact on the company if the item supply targets are not met? Your target is there, the delivery has to go by 20th, you have to get the material by 15th. If 15th become 20th, you might have booked the ship, you might have booked some other things around, so those funds will go waste. So you really need to look around, what is the impact if I don't get the goods from the supplier? Now here comes, we call a supply positioning model. Now this supply positioning model, you're trying to position the supplier based on expenditures, based on impact. I showed you earlier 2 by 2 matrix of Peter Krasik. So Peter Krasik was the key founder of developing this supply positioning model, SPM we could call. Or you might be aware of ABC concepts around, ABC analysis around, A type category item, B category item, C category item. So based on the ABC analysis, Pareto, who was an Italian, who came up with the concept of 80-20. He said that worldwide, if you look around, suppose you're buying 100 items, and you put all the expenditure of those items in a very descending order, take the top 20 purchase orders, and you add the amount what is being spent on the top 20 high value purchase orders, you'll find the amount will be around 80% of the total. So in short, 20% of the top high value items covers around 80% of the spend, while the one which are 80% below, they may be covering only 20% of the spend. So this gives you a wonderful focus where I should put my more energy, where should I put more my efforts around. So one item might be falling under the low values, while the transaction might be very high, but the item is very low, low risk. It's a different approach around. But then there's an item which costs a lot in terms of expenditure. So there I need a different type of approach. So approach has to change depending on where the item falls. So you can see 2 by 2 matrix. Now here we got one x-axis is expenditure and y-axis is impact. So impact means is a profit impact. Some items may have a more profit impact. Some may not have much more. So here we have got examples of this one, a company which you will see in your study guide, a company called Alpha, which is making radios. You also know very well like speakers. It has a big impact on the speaker quality is very important around. So the impact of the whole sale, more the sales, more the profit. So speaker counts a lot. Micro valves counts a lot. Tuning devices counts a lot. You can see in the top, these items, electric motors, micro valves, speakers, they have more impact on the profitability or more impact on the sales of the companies around. But then you find some item like nuts and bolts, which has low values and impact is also low. So you can see that arbitrarily it has been taken up. Some items which are very important for the profitability, for the quality of the products, and then expenditure wise they're very high. So those key items of the radios have been put under different locations around. So this is the very first stage of supply positioning model. Now here you can see around give your highest priority to the items. Obviously if you are the boss, you will say, guys, oh, the speaker is coming under the H categories around. I must put highest priority because first thing, it has a bigger impact in terms of my sale. If speakers are good qualities, obviously it will have bigger impact on the sales. And on the cost side, expenditure side, it's a high value item. And being a high value item, having a big impact on the sales around, you need to put a lot of focus on this. Then we see the next one now. So earlier chart which you were seeing around, on the y-axis we had impact, x-axis was expenditure. Now here we got on the x-axis supply risk rating and impact rating, where later on I'll combine both these along with expenditure. So this one you are seeing the supply risk rating. Now the risk rating is very basic funda is if I have got more supply sources, more reliable supply sources, if one doesn't do a good job, I can switch to another one. My risk is very small. But in case I have got more supply source, less supply sources, let's say only one supplier sources for giving me the electric motors, a micro valve. And if that supplier doesn't want to work with us, I'm in trouble. My whole assembly line will come to standstill. So those items where you have got less supply sources, the risk is higher. Where you got more supply sources, supply risk rating is low. So keeping the risk, keeping the impact, all items have been again put under some under the H category, high risk, medium risk, L mean low risk, and is negligible risk. Like nuts and bolts, if one doesn't give, I go to the next one. So my risk is very low. Impact is also low. Cleaning supplies, again my risk is low and impact is low. The items which are really affecting are the high value ones as well as high impact ones. Speaker and micro valve, you can see both are giving high impact. The only difference is speaker has got not a very high risk around because there are many choices available, while in the micro valves there are not many choices available. So now we are coming up to this again, item speakers. So let's say we're taking one item. And then you're coming with different. So like this, you're giving each item the highest rating applied to its supply target. So for the speaker, you're saying around reduce the delivered cost by 15%. So you're trying to put down for each item, what do you want? Some place you want quality improvement. Some place you want lead time to be cut down. Some place you want the cost to be cut down. This is based on your feedback from the production department, from the sales people, that we have more problem with these items. The lead time is much more, and the assembly line can come to a standstill. So you put down your all objectives around. Now, supply positioning, looking at those two things, I've combined the two. So again, we come back to supply positioning model. So on the x-axis, I've got expenditures. And the y-axis is now combined impact and supply risk. So you are looking at the impact and the supply risk starting from negligible N, L is low, M is medium, H is high. So same item have been put again depending on whether they are coming under the 80-20, where 80% of the items is R20-80, which box it comes up, and what is their impact. So this is what we call the stage 2. So again, here you find in this supply positioning model, you really need to put the H area, the highest priority to be given to those items which represents high level of both expenditure and impact. So you can see around the high level is speakers, okay, I mean I'm seeing on the sound that sound has been lost, but I hope you're able to hear me. Now here comes the next ones, understanding the supply market. So now when we come to understanding of the supply markets, there are 7 boxes you can see around. First is prepare for a supply market. Assess the degree and effects of competition. Third would be the forecasting part. Fourth is understanding what drives the market. Fifth is assessing the price. Sixth is segment the supply. And the last is screen out less relevant segments. So the very first one is supply market analysis. Now, when we're talking on the step 1, the very first thing we really need to know is what are your objectives. What do you want to do it? Why do you want to do it? Your work is going on. If I take the case of a radio making company, or motorcycle company, or any automobile companies, your work is going on. Your suppliers are giving you. You have identified the 2x2 matrix. You have put down various items under different shadows under the 2x2 matrix. But you may have some objective. For some items, you want to cut the cost. For some item, you're getting frequent problem from the clients. The quality is poor. The brakes might be failing. So then you will say, I want to improve the quality of our brakes by 50%. You might be finding that your tires are too costly and you want to put the tires, guys, in the top priorities around their high value items. You say, guys, I want to cut down the cost here. So you have your objectives there. And how much time do you have? That's very important around, because these exercises takes time. What happens if you don't do it? Suppose you've gone all the way around, found new supply sources in Timbuktu, and then you find supplier is not able to deliver you. What information do you have? So on what basis you're making the decisions, that's what makes the very step 1. So step 1 is just to make up your mind framework. Should I do it? What is my purpose? Why I want to do it? What data I have before I jump further. Step 2 is the one assessing the degree and effect of competition. What is the level of competition around? Before I go for it, as I said to you in the case of automobile, if I find tire is my high cost item, transmission box is my high cost items. So, but before I go down to this, I need to find the degree and effects of competition. So this is what we are going to do in this one. So the very first come the demand and supply. I mean, it's a very basic thing that whenever we say, what is the demand of X items? It's all by demand and supply. The price are also influenced by this. Now, the demand and supply is affected by what? The factor which affects the demand, the price is one, very basic thing. Available incomes, how much salary you get in your pocket. So more the incomes, obviously your demand goes up. Prices of substitute goods. If I substitute X with the Y, so what are the prices? Prices of complementary goods. Buyers' preferences, their taste around, buyers' expectation, the number of buyers. All these factors count for demand. Now, same way we are looking at the factor which influences the supply part. So supply is also influenced by the price, prices of inputs. If the input prices, like say steel prices goes up, so that is going to affect my supply. The prices of inputs, technologies, what level I'm getting around. If I get a very good technologies, maybe I'm able to produce much more. Suppliers' expectations and the number of sellers. If I'm the only one suppliers in the country, whatever I make is sold, great. But if I've got other supply sources which are trying to compete with me, so those factors, if someone comes with a better design than mine, these factors could affect the supply part. Now here is a very basic which I'm sure you must have studied in the college time. Those who have done economics, even in engineering, this is very commonly taught. The demand side, so the demand curve is moving upside down. Then the next you find that the supply going up. So demand can go from D1 to D2. Supply could go from S1 to S2. So when the demand increases from D1 to D2, the slope is same. Elasticity is same. So the elasticity is not affected. It is for the same price. If I go with the D1, for the P1 price, my quantity requirement is Q1. But same P1 price, my quantity becomes Q3. So that means my demand has increased from Q1 to Q3, even for the same price. So the price has not changed. The price is P1. But when demand has gone from Q1 to Q2, same case for the shift in supply. If my price is P1, my supply increases. That means it has gone from Q1 to Q3. Reasons could be many, which we discussed earlier. So supply could change, demand could move, but the equilibrium comes where demand and supply are matching. So if you look at the graph there, if demand and supply where they are interacting, that's what we call the equilibrium points. So in this equilibrium points, the demand could shift or supply could shift. So keep that factors in mind, anything could change. Here is the one very popular, Porter's 5 forces in supply management. So you might be in any business, maybe in a pharma business, automobile business, or even service business, any business. This model works very well, and it is called Porter's 5 forces. You can see those 5 forces starting from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So those 5 forces, so the 5 forces are, very first thing is, again I will say more of a common sense, competition among supply. I'm the buyer, but there's only one supplier. I'm buying oil products, maybe 1 or 2. That also suppliers might have a cartel. Hardly any competitions. But if I could be in a product which there are many supply, like for your office supplies, who can supply you? So that's the competition. The number two comes on the top is likelihood of new suppliers entering the market. So far we had only two suppliers, but now we are finding another supplier coming up. The government has given approval for third one to start manufacturing it. That means there are more suppliers coming into the market. This is one force which could affect my supply market. The third one comes availability of substitute product. There could be a substitute product of services company. I was making the digital watches earlier, but now I find someone else has come up with an alternate product like, the iWatches are made by Apple. It's a substitute product, but much better product around. It could kill my business around. So one needs to see around availability of substitute product or service around. The item or technology I'm buying, I'm an automobile company. I'm using a dashboard, and the dashboard is giving like analog type readings for my mileage, for my fuel consumptions, for my air pressures. But then there's another supplier who gives me the nice dashboard which gives me digital reading. So there's a substitute product available that could, if I buy that, it improves my product market share also. Bargaining power of suppliers of inputs. I have many suppliers, but that supplier is not a big supplier in the market. I mean, their suppliers are not very attracted to them. But if my supplier is one of the big one in the market, so their suppliers are very eager to work with them. So there's a continuity of supplies. And the last one is bargaining power of buyers. I'm buying something. There are other companies also who are in the similar business. They're also buying. So who has a bigger deal? Suppose if I'm in a company which makes 1 million cars, so my buyer has got really muscle power to procure. There's another company which only makes 1,000 cars. So naturally their buyers will have difficulty to go and buy from the same small supplier who is very willing to work with us because we are a bigger buyer. So the bargaining power of the buyer counts a lot. So these are the five forces. Keep in mind competitions, likelihood of new suppliers, substitute part, bargaining power of suppliers, and the last is bargaining power of the buyers. Now the very first one is, here I can go quickly because I've already explained this. So the competition amongst the number of suppliers, growth rate of market, full use, and number of products in this now. Second force, is it difficult and costly to enter the market? Restrictions, high investments, specific know-how, economies of scale. Third force, availability of substitutes. Here you can see one tie versus another tie. So it's a substitute available around, but doing the same purpose. Fourth force is bargaining power of suppliers. So number of suppliers of inputs, size of supply markets, level of switching costs. So you might be having a one supplier for the last 5-10 years. Now if I have to switch over, and how much is the cost of my switching over? The fifth force is bargaining power of the buyer. I think I have touched already around, are there many buyers? Are switching costs high? Are there alternatives? These factor counts a lot. Now come the competitive market. We say market is competitive. So when we say competitive, what exactly means competitive? So that means no individual buyer or sellers can influence the price. Very good example is oil. There were 5 or 6 key players in the market. If the OPEC decide one price, the price of the barrel is going to be $120 per barrel, and collectively they have joined hands, so it's not a competitive market. So competitive means based on the production, everybody is competing. That's what we are looking around. So competitive market, again, there are different headings around. You'll always find one question on this. What is monopoly? What is oligopoly? What is monospony? What is oligospony? So the both one, monopoly, monospony, So both are starting with the one, mono. Monopoly is one supplier, sole sellers, while monospony is the reverse of that. There's only one buyer. Monopoly is one supplier and monospony is one buyer. Similarly, when you find oligopoly and oligospony, so few suppliers offer identical or similar products and few buyers dominate the market. So it's other way around. So that's how it comes. Now comes the next one is risk and opportunity in a competitive. So everything has got two sides of the coin. If it is very competitive market, competitive means you have to really work very hard to outbeat the others. Pricing has to be competitive. Customer is smart enough. They know very well both products, feature-wise same, quality-wise same. If one cuts down the price 10%, people like to buy that. So there is a competitive pricing. People will try to do the differentiation of the product. This is why you today see in the market, whether it's for mobile phone, whether for electronic product, whether for laptops, whether for desktop, whether for automobile. Since the market is competitive, everybody is struggling hard, working very hard to come with the new products, trying to differentiate that I'm better than others. Better qualities, better deliveries. If one doesn't give you, you say, guys, okay, I'm not interested to buy from you. But if you go 25, 30 years back in India, one model of car. Today we have 170 models of cars. So competition keeps, okay, one way it is the survival of the fittest, but people have to really struggle hard to ensure that their products are good. But there's a risky part in this one is, some suppliers are not able to compete, they will disappear. So it is not that once you have started a business, you might be doing very good job in the first year, but you have to work hard all the time to survive. It's a competitive market. The day you don't work on it, the business comes to disappearance. So suppliers have to really struggle to ensure the continuity part. If there's a restricted competition, you very well know if there's a restricted competition, supplier knows I dominate the market. Poor customer focus, poor service level, high prices, price increases up, lack of innovations. There's no interest. There's no carrot to work hard to come with a new product. Lack of leverage, flexibilities. And people become rigid. They know very well my product will sell. So competition is the mantra for growth. Now coming to understanding the supply market, the forecasting part. So we had done the very first. Second was assessing the competition level. Third is the forecasting market developments. And now at the end of the day, when you want to go for supply market analysis, you want to forecast this. How is the market growing? How is the market changing? What is going to be my requirements in the office? So that forecast has to be done for your own products and for the marketplace. Now that forecasting approaches are many tools available. So that could be by projecting it based on a time series. Oh, 5 years back this, 4 years back this, 3 years back this, 2 years, 1 year, now future trend you get around. And that trend you try to project further. You'll see the last 5 years my growth has been 10%. So my forecast of my product market side is going to be this. The next is expert opinions. Nowadays many consultants are available, many experts are available for wide range of products who are keeping in touch the market trends. And if you go to them, you tell them, guys, I want to see what is going to be the trend of automobile next year. What is going to be the trend of pharma next year? What is the trend of the biometrics of this thing around? So those ways they can give you the expert opinions, and then based on that you can work on it. Supply market testing, and the last is product market life cycle. Every product has a life, like human being. They go through a cycle. So every product goes through a cycle starting from the development till the fall. So there's a launching time, there's a growth period, there's a declining period, then the fall comes. So those factor counts a lot. If somebody has made a product and been doing wonderfully well for the last 5 years, and now new products have come up around, and if this guy who was doing very well has not changed with the market, it's going to be fall. So the forecasting, if I were to do, they'll be going downward. So this is a trend you can see around. The first one, the trend is like horizontal. Second one, you see the growth is going upward. And then the dotted line shows you the future one. The past one was declining and the future is also declining. Then comes cyclic fluctuations. Now the cyclic fluctuation is economic season. Sometimes you're going through recession. The world is going through recession. Your country is going through recessions. So those cyclic fluctuations will be there. Then there's seasonality. Some festival is coming, and with festival, people will like to buy more and more. And then when the festival is over, everybody's pockets are empty, there could be decline. So that's what we call seasonal growth and seasonal fall. So the growth may be there seasonally, and it may fall also. Then there are random variations. Sometimes change happens. Some you can explain, but some you can't explain. Why this randomly? You can see the two dots around, very far off from the trend. Why this is happening? So that's sometimes very difficult to answer. So that's what we call the word as random. Here is the one I told you, the product life cycle starts from the launch, growth, maturity, decline. The best product of the world, which were on the top towering things around, you might have seen after 10 years they are gone, they disappear. A new company comes with a new product and they become the leader. So to remain leader, one has to put too much efforts into this. So no product has a lifetime things. So we have covered the first four. Now we're talking about understanding what drives the market. Now the market drivers are the factor which generate a competitive advantage. So those are the ones which generate something that your product is better than others. So that differentiation has to come up. So when the first time somebody came with a smartphone, they were differentiating than the others. And people know that I have to pay 25% more for this, or even double, but the advantages were much more. So those were the drivers. The drivers could be technology, drivers could be new products around, take advantage of the niche market, secure manufacturing flexibilities around. So your manufacturing has got flexibility to cope up with the demand. If you're not able to give in the less small lead time, and your lead time is very high, you're going to kill your business. So you need a flexibility around distribution channels. So those factors also contribute a lot in driving the markets around. Some products are wonderfully well, but they're not available on the shelf. People can't wait. So that driver is missing in that. The next is assess price. So when we talk of a price, I'm looking at a supply market and I want to assess, is this price reasonable? I'm sure when you and me spend our own money, first thing we question here, I'm going to spend this much. Is it worth it? Not just because my friend has bought or my neighbor has bought. Is it worth the price I'm going to pay for it? Assessing the price. So assessing the price comes, one has to understand what contributes to the prices. Cost of production, value to the customer. Cost of the production nowadays are becoming very uniform among all the companies. Everybody's trying to become leaner, trying to follow just in time, new concepts around. Labor cost is more or less similar. What is distinguished is the value to the customer. What value you are giving to the customers. The value could be the perception of the customer. One thing, so guys, if anything goes wrong, I can go to the company supplier and within 1 hour the things are put back. If there's another product available where I know very well if something goes wrong, I will never see the day of this being repaired. So the value to the customer is very important around in terms of features, in terms of backup support, in terms of guidance. That's very important around. And competition and market factors. And sometimes market factor also comes. How does market takes care of you? Market, you're giving good discount to the distributors. Naturally, they are very willing to work for you compared to others. Supply markets, here I'm just giving you a split of the costs around. The labor cost is hardly 18%, overhead cost, material costs, which you guys are involved in procuring or getting for the supplies, any companies around, whether in service or this, you are the one major spend. The purse of the company is in your pocket in one way. 50 to 60%, I see all the big companies, 50 to 60% is the money spent by procurement people, 15 to 20% by logistic people. So in short, the whole supply chain covers 65% of the sales revenue. It's a big chunk. That big chunk of money, if it is optimized, gives you big savings. Segments of the supply market. So there are many supply sources worldwide. Now you want to segment them. And that segmentation means those suppliers which have similar features in terms of technologies, in terms of locations, in terms of logistics, you put them into one segment. But there's another suppliers which are very far off. Technology level is very low. Or the third could be the technology is really the state of art. It's a different segment. So segmenting the suppliers which are of similar nature. That's what we call the segmenting part. So here you can see around, we're trying to segment the suppliers worldwide, which falls into this segment, which falls into the other segment. So segmentation of equal, more or less equal time in terms of technology, in terms of location, in terms of geography, in terms of dealing with the suppliers, all those factors. So this is where we have mentioned around suppliers of standard components, suppliers of specialized components. So these suppliers, worldwide suppliers, and we're trying to segment them. Now the process of segmentation starts, you need to define the variables. The variable could be geography part, the variable could be technology part, the variable could be the channel of distributions. So depending on that, you make segments. Variable also could be that I'm going to export most of my product to USA. I want supply source in US. Or I'm going to supply in India. I'll prefer if my supplier is also in India. So it depends what are your variables. Then screen out some segment based on your existing knowledge. So you found many segments around and then you say, guys, no, this is not going to work. This country is very difficult. This country is going through tough time. So this is not going to work segments. You try to rationalize the list of supply sources. That's what it goes on. The next one comes, screen out the segments. And that's what we're trying to do is analyze each segments. Now this takes a lot of time. Don't waste time on segments which are unlikely to be useful. So that's where you have to use your gut feeling, your common sense. Some segments you very well know is not going to work for you. Getting a goods from those countries is going to take you enormous. The country culture is not there to give you the right time. The pricing, all that things are. So don't segments. And the last one comes in those situations where you will not do any segmentation if there's only one supply source. Or there are some countries you're trying to segment them, but you know very well you can't buy from those countries. There are restrictions by the government. So in those situations, you will not like to segment. So the segmentations part to exclude from the supply market, product differentiations. So you have to work it out your supply targets. what exactly is your supply targets. So based on that, you might like to exclude them. Let's say long-term availability. You want a long-term availability. So you're trying to find a segment of suppliers, no proven records, no experience. You will not like to, you like to exclude them. That's what you do. So this is one, it covers that. Now we are coming up, identify the types, supply risk and opportunity of different. Now here we're looking at three areas around: geography segments, technology segments, supply channel segment. So we in the beginning talked about the market segment. Now the market segments, when we took at the very first one, identify the types of supply risk and opportunity in different segments. So the geographically, what are the risks? If you're buying from Mexico for India, what are the risks around? What are the opportunities around? But if you're buying from a neighboring country, let's say from Thailand or from Nepal, what are the risks and opportunities? So geographic part we'll talk about. We'll talk about technologies. In one country, I can get the state-of-art technologies. In another country, I get a very old technology which is already obsolete. And supply chain segment. What segment I follow? Should I go to the buyers? Should I go to the retailers? Should I go to the distributors? Should I go to the agents? Should I buy from the manufacturers? So the supply channel segments, what is the more relevant segment? So based on that, we'll try to walk through it. Now this whole thing can be split based on this terminology called POCKET, pocket. So under the P, we look at the political points, legal points, socio-culture factors, outbound logistics, competition levels, key inputs to the supply markets, economic and infrastructure factors. And the last is technology factor. So what we're trying to do here is, guys, now we have done the segmentation worldwide. We have supply sources in China, I've got supply sources in US, I got in Vietnam, I got in Thailand, I got in India, China, Nepal, Thailand, whatever, Sri Lanka. All these countries I have made my geographic segments. But then the next question comes before I proceed. I start looking at the P level, O level, C level, KE level, and T level. So the political part is very first. Obviously, political stability is the first one. Any country which is going through problems, politically not stable, you will like to avoid those supply sources. Those supply segments, you will say, guys, not relevant for the time being. State of relationship between the government. The country may be okay, but the relationship of your country, where you're based, versus the relationship with other country from where you're planning to buy, it may be economical, may be cost effective, but the relationship is not so good. Or if you feel there's a threat of war in the country from where the supply source is based. So politically, you're not very comfortable. Legal framework. If you want to do a business in that country, you want to procure some parts, you want to procure some supplies, the legal framework of business is not very friendly. This is why in India we are also talking of moving from red tape to red carpet. So we are trying to make the legal framework much more business friendly. Next comes environments, ethics and corruption. What type of environment they have, ethically how they are, corruption level what they are. So these factors counts also there. Labor relationship. In some countries, labor is very smooth. In some countries, you will find all the time there are disruptions. Hardly any month goes when there is no strike in the country around. In those situations, you would like to avoid. Culture, religions, languages, they also come up and become one part of it. Time zones. You're trying to do a business with a country where the time zone is just opposite. Communication becomes a big hurdle. So that's where it works out. Now comes outbound logistics. So we covered the political part. Now we're talking of logistics. Logistic is again big issues. Now logistic is again movements, inbound logistic and outbound logistic. Here we're talking of outbound logistic. That means after you have made the product, you're trying to deliver to the client. That's what we call outbound. Now this one is influencing your delivery and impact cost of acquisition. Complex logic chains, increased risk of damage to the goods in transit, transportation services available on demand, infrastructure. That's why nowadays we hear a lot. In India also we are focusing a lot on infrastructure. If somebody has to set up a plant in India, and if it is meant for export, they would like to put up which is closer to the port. If it is very far off, a lot of money and time is wasted in driving the goods from one end to another end. So everybody wants a good infrastructure. Risk of pilferage. Suppose you're making and you're having a production in a country, or you're buying the goods from a country, and then you find risk of pilferage is there. That means for item to reach at your place, somebody could steal on the way, custom clearance time, theft could happen around. Those are the negative part. So these could also have impact upon supply. Insurance services, high insurance rates, impossibility of contracting insurance, administrative problems, and lengthy settlements. Documentation requirements around some countries, there are too much documentations. Availability of inspections and testing services. Suppose if I'm getting the goods from that country, the parts are coming from that country, and before getting, I want them to get third-party inspections. If inspection facilities are not available, this could affect my delivery. Next comes, so we've done the P, we have covered the O, now we're coming to C. So C is the competition number. The factors to consider: number of suppliers. If there are many suppliers, but if there are few suppliers, then there's hardly any competition. There could be collusion. There could be cartels. The next comes overall supply versus demand. If the supply is covering the full capacity, or does they have enough buffer to supply you in case you need more items around? Bargaining power of your organization as a buyer. Sometime it could happen, your business is a very small, tiny fraction of the supplier business. So it may not attract them. So that's what we need to do. Now, key inputs to the supply markets. So K is the key inputs, raw materials and components. So better or worse access to raw material and other inputs. Problem in securing inputs, and the labor is also very issues around. You are trying to buy from a country, you have set up your own plant there itself, but there's a labor shortage around. Economics policy, exchange rates. Now you're dealing with a country which has a very strong currency, or you might be dealing with a country which is very poor currencies. I've seen of countries with their exchange rate of $1 to $1,000, then later on you find after 3 months it has become from 1,000 to 3,000. So naturally in those situations you don't work around. Economic cycle. Now from where you're trying to buy, is that country going through recession? Is it going through the booming economy? So that factor, economic cycle, is to be looked at. I think I can skip this, a very standard thing. So E is the one next one. Economic and infrastructure factors. Now economic and this, the finance and the banking. So obviously wherever you want to buy, you want to do this, you're getting your parts from another countries around. Today the world is becoming global village. So you are trying to buy X or Y items to make your production in your country, but the parts are coming from there. You have to make the payment transfer, the poor banking systems. So naturally that will be affecting a big way. basic infrastructure, the frequent power cuts, insufficient infrastructures, poor communications. If the company is in some area around which is not accessible through communications, how do we communicate? So without communication, you can't do business with us. The next come technology factors. So you're trying to get a goods from X and Y country, but the level of technological innovation capability may be very low. The choice of technology which are available, some are able to give you too many choices, and the life cycle also could happen. The product might be on obsolete what they're making. So that product life cycle must be an obsolete. So you really don't want to get in those places. Now, so far we have covered the geographical part. Now we're talking of technology segments. So geographical segments, I know the word technology came there also, but that technology was a supplier as a part of geography. I'm trying to deal with India. I'm trying to deal with Vietnam. I'm trying to deal with China. I'm trying to deal with Nepal. So geographically, I will look at Nepal, and then I will also look at technology level of this. But then there's another segment I made on technology. So now I'm trying to evaluate that. So factors to be considered: maturity of the technologies. So what level of technology it is? Is it mature technologies? The next is complexity of technologies. If technology is very complex, not user friendly, so it means long learning curve for your staff. You want something which is very user friendly, easy to understand, or technology for dummies, so it should be very common sense type. If it has got too many things one has to cram around, it's not going to fly. So ease of manufacturing. So whatever technology we are doing around, trying to find, okay, some technology for my product, is it cost effective? Does it differentiate my products around? And cost of technology and its use. So the cost of technology, how much more expensive, help to differentiate. Suppliers may go for business. So when I talk of a technology segment, let's say if I'm looking around to implement MOOC system here, online training system in my organizations, there are many softwares available around, many technologies available around worldwide. So I identify the technology segments. Then I see around which is the one easily, which is the one user friendly, which is cost effective, which one I can maintain myself. So those factors are important around when you look at technology segments. So your experience with that technology is around barriers to moving from this technology to another technology. You might have bought a software, you might have bought a technology, then you want to upgrade it later on. Sometimes very difficult to bring another technology until you throw away the total old one. Any upgradations may not be allowed. So technology suitability, adaptability, technology may not be very robust, lack of safety may be there around. So those factors one has to look at. Interconnectivity, openness of technologies, condition of access to the technologies around. If access is very restricted, so you will like to avoid those places around. Because for you technology is very crucial to sell your product. So you're buying the technology around and you want to be sure that there's not too many restrictions on the user. Now, so we have covered the geographical, we covered the technology segments, and now we're talking around the supply chain segment, supply channel segment. The supply channel means the mode of transportation, the mode of buying. Am I buying? The channel for me is retailer. The channel for me is the distributors. The channel could mean for me, it could be buying directly from a manufacturer. So it all depends on your bargaining power. If your bargaining power is too low, manufacturer is not interested. Let's say I'm buying health related equipments. I'm buying only 2 machines. Big companies may not be interested to supply. At the end of the day, I'm left up with nothing but to buy from local dealer or agents. Availability. So the choices of availability is also there around. Product range. It depends on this. Whether I have got too many product range around, what size it is there around, continuity of supply, and the last one is product support and response. So these channel segments counts in that. Now the next one we are looking at further research the risk and opportunity. See, first we went to the similar graph earlier one was supply market. Now we're trying to do is appraising the market from the angle of risk and opportunities. So identify the screen, the relevant events in the segments. Now events are the one you see sometime in The Economist. India is coming with a GST now. That's an event. India is coming with a land reform bill. India is coming with an event where 24/7 power is assured. So those are the events. So these also affects the business angle. So someplace you start with the knowledge events wise, and each event has a risk, each event has an opportunity. This is what you need to identify. So let's say look up GST. What could be the risk in that and what is the opportunity for you? So this is where we look at the events. For the risk, research and opportunity related to these events. Now here you got wide range of information available with you. You need to assess, is it going to give me more risk? Is it going to be more opportunity? You must have seen in any countries around, government come with new bills, government come with new amendments. Their intention, some will get benefit, some may not get benefit. For some it's an opportunity, for some it's a risk. See, even the commodity price goes down. Sometime, like recently you're seeing around, commodity price of the gold is going down. So for some it is wonderful. People can buy now. It's a much cheaper price. But for some it's a risk who have bought earlier at a higher price and were stocking it on the assumption that the price will go someday up. So there could be risk and opportunities. So the next one comes build scenarios to assess the extent of the risk and opportunities. So when we try into those scenarios part, there could be best case scenarios, most likely case scenarios, and the last one is called the worst case scenario. So this is what we're going to do is build scenarios to assess the extent of risk and opportunity. Now when we are looking at those scenarios, we're looking at the quality part, we're looking at the lead time part, we're looking at supplier responsiveness, and the last we're looking also at a cost reduction as well. Now identify which supply targets are affected by these risks. So this is the sign which you see is you're looking at identifying which supply targets are affected by these risks and opportunities. That's what it is. Let's look at the quality. Now you have, this is a typical example I've taken up. Your supply example target is you want to improve the performance reliability rate for the purchase item of no less than, let's say, X%. Could be 10%. You say, guys, if I have to compete for any of the items which are manufacturing, I have to improve by 10 to 20% to become the leader in the market. Availability. Today I feel my clients are all the time grumbling that your delivery is too long. So I'm thinking of making my target that I will cut down my lead time by 3 weeks. Supplier service responsiveness. Some will say, guys, you will get reply within 24 hours. That's another way to look at it. Cost reduction. You say, I want to cut down the cost by 5%, at least across the board. So these are the objectives which you have. So you have different events. Now the events could be recent labor unrest in the various industries. Situations will still undecided. Now in this scenarios could be, the best case scenarios is labor settlement has been made quickly. Then the next one is most likely, the case scenario is quick settlements in some sectors with sporadic work stoppages in others. And the last one is the worst case scenarios, lengthy labor disputes, they go on. So the supply target, when you took around the quality part, the lead time, the total cost, all three are affected. So that's the way we look at it. So best case scenarios, most likely scenarios, and the targets. Now here we are looking at impact of risk and opportunity scenarios. Now the best case scenarios is broad-based labor agreement reached. So naturally, if you are buying from that company, no delays will happen. So there is a smiley face. But when we look at the most likely case, and the top you mentioned around, you're buying product like clubs or something. And the country is called just some land. It's not Somalia or something, just land, some land. And your target is to reduce the average lead time to 20 days. Current lead estimate for this is 14 to 16 days. So your target is 20 days. So 14 to 16 days serves your purpose. So if I look at the best case scenarios, no delays. But if the strike has happened now, quick settlements in some sectors and stoppages in others, delay of 2 to 3 days over the next 2 months. The guy is not happy. The worst case scenario, really unhappy. So that's the way it will change. Now here we're trying to find the best balance of risk and opportunity. So here we guys going to say around is, if you look at the three colors, short terms, intermediates. So the best case scenario is that your target was 20, you are still in the short term in the base case scenarios. In the intermediate term, you may not be in the best. While if I look at most likely case scenarios, you can see the color zone in the very short term and the zone up to worst case scenario. The worst case scenarios, it can go up to 36, 37 days. So that's where you really work it out your own way. Now here we see the sum and overall assessment of supply opportunity, quality performance, lead time, total cost. So the combining the supply targets, in quality side you're low, lead time you're moving from N to H. So opportunity is N, negligible, but the risk is very high. Similarly, the total cost of buying, opportunity wise is medium and supply risk wise least. So the final impact is, if I combine all these parameters depending on the weight, so we think supply opportunity is hardly any opportunity wise we are very low, but supply risk wise we are medium. That's how it comes. So that's the one we are trying to draw. The country like some land, risk rating is M, opportunity rating is L. So that's the way we looked at it. Now based on this, we'll try to put on all the countries where we were looking at the segments. So we found suppliers in country E, supplier country F, country D, and each country we have done the same way as we did in the previous one. for country like some land. So some land we identify the risk, opportunity, same thing we have done for all the countries. So here you can see the country which have lot of risks around, some land is a risk, country Y is a risk, and country X is a risk. So those are the ones we are trying to drop. So the country which are okay to consider, country means supplier in those countries. Country A, country B, country E, country D. So we could think them as relevant. Now here we comes, we done the whole identification by using the word pocket, but this has to be repeated on a quarterly basis. First quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. So whatever you have done, the assessment part is not a lifetime. So this is where we got options. Now we're trying to put all those things, supply, opportunity, risk rating. So you can see now, impact is there, opportunity is there, risk rating is there. They've been all combined together. Now we are coming back to again SPM, supply positioning model. So supply positioning model, the x-axis is same. The y is a combination of impact, opportunity, and risk. So that's what we've taken around, and we find this item called clunks. Before market analysis was at this level, now it has come down to the lower level. Well, the last chapter, I would say the last unit of this module is on information. Where do we get the information? What source of information? Is it the newspaper? Is it the Google search? Is it the chambers of commerce? That's what we're going to talk about. So the information providers could be publishing house, could be newspaper and journals, chambers of commerce, specialized trade, national purchasing and supply management association, official foreign trade representatives. I'm sure most of the foreign countries, embassies, as you might have seen, they have their own foreign trade representatives sitting in the embassy. They can help you a lot. Then the next one is the various international organizations, your current suppliers, other supplier. Lastly is the one fair and exhibitions. Now getting information for your SMA. SMA is supply, basically supply market analysis. So we have gone through the Porter's analysis, identifying the market drivers, screening of the segments. We went through 3 segments around, geographically, technically, and the last was channels of distribution. The next is the cost and price analysis. So in the forecasting and the pocket analysis. So here is the one, again for information, when we were doing the Porter's 5 forces. So Porter 5 forces need a lot of inputs. Now that input could come from existing market studies, your colleagues, the internet, your suppliers, industry associations, specialized journals. But the way we use this Porter forces 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, we know it enough. Now making sense of information. Information is like a data. Data is nothing of any meaning to you until you really make sense out of it. To make a sense means you have to make intelligence out of it. You really need to analyze the data and then try to see how this is good for me. Check the reliability, analyze and interpret, organize what you have collected, and that's what it means. Now, after you've collected all the data, you need to classify them. So I'm sure like you and me, when we get a lot of data around, how do we store in our computers? Under what heading I should put it? Should I classify this? Even for today's presentation, like I'm doing with you, I've classified them under the webinar. So in my webinar, they sit all these documentation there itself. So set up a small reference library, subscribe to key sources, and get on the internet connection. This way you can collect all the data. Well, friend, this one, the journey goes on. So if you have any questions, clarifications, I'm available to listen to you guys. And then after that, we'll have a break for 1 hour and then we'll start with the next one. So please raise your hands. And what I can do is on case by case, I can again unmute it and then you can raise the question. Others can also listen. And those who want to do the chatting, I'm okay, acceptable with that thing. I'll be happy to answer those also.